Good evening and welcome to YHWH Learning Channel. My name is Brother Charles Williams. I'm really super excited about this last in our series on the 12 tribes of Israel. Let's first review. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, and Benjamin. Now this week we will be concentrating on the last two, which would be Joseph and Benjamin. Let's first go to our first scripture here, and that is in Genesis chapter 22, verses 17 and 18.
That in blessing I will bless thee, and in multiplying I will multiply thy seed as the stars of the heaven, and as the sand which is upon the seashore, and thy seed shall possess the gate of their enemies. And in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because thou hast obeyed my voice.
Okay, and we've seen that throughout this series in the book of Genesis. Now, the first one of the two that we're going to cover tonight is Joseph. Now in the Hebrew it's Yosef. Okay, and the scripture reference is John chapter 6, verse 35.
And Messiah said unto them, I am the bread of life. He that cometh to me shall never hunger, and he that believeth on me shall never thirst.
Okay, so you might wonder why does it give, in the book of John, does it talk about Joseph? Well, if you read this, it says, whoever will come to me will never go hungry. So, what's the family of Joseph here? The family of Joseph, Joseph was the 11th son of Jacob. He was born to Rachel. He was Rachel's first biological son. Interesting how it got all the way to the 11th child, and it was Rachel's first biological child. All the other children were born from her handmaidens. Joseph's sons were Manasseh and Ephraim. What's the meaning of the name Joseph? The meaning of the name Joseph or Yosef is he will increase. Genesis chapter 30 verses 22 through 24.
And Elohim remembered Rachel, and Elohim hearkened to her and opened her womb. And she conceived and bare a son, and said, Elohim have taken away my reproach. And she called his name Joseph, and said, Yahweh shall add to me another son.
Okay, so we see why his name means he will increase. How about Manasseh, one of his sons? Genesis chapter 41, verse 51.
And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh. For Elohim, said he, hath made me to forget all my toil and all my father's house.
Okay, so we see the meaning of the name Manasseh is one who forgets. You see, Yahweh made Joseph forget all his hardships that he has gone through. And his other son, Ephraim. Genesis chapter 41, the next verse, 52.
And the name of the second called he Ephraim, for Elohim hath caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction.
Okay, so the name Ephraim means double fruitfulness. And we see why. Because Joseph had two sons now. What was Joseph's blessing from Jacob? Genesis chapter 49, verse 22.
Joseph is a fruitful bough, even a fruitful bough by the well, whose branches run over the well.
Okay, so we see he's a fruitful vine. Jacob blessed Joseph's son, saying that Ephraim would be greater than Manasseh, the firstborn. Genesis chapter 48, verses 17 through 20.
And when Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand upon the head of Ephraim, it displeased him. And he held up his father's hand to remove it from Ephraim's head unto Manasseh's head. And Joseph said unto his father, Not so, my father, this is the firstborn. Put thy hand upon his head. And his father refused, and said, I know it, my son, I know it. He also shall become a people, and he also shall be great. But truly his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his seed shall become a multitude of nations. And he blessed them that day, saying, In thee shall Israel bless, saying, Elohim make thee as Ephraim and as Manasseh. And he set Ephraim before Manasseh.
Okay, so what's going on here? What is happening? You see, back in that culture, in that time, it was always the firstborn, or was supposed to be the firstborn, that was supposed to get the blessing of their father, no matter how many children that they had. But in this case, Joseph put his hand on Ephraim first, before Manasseh, which that's why they said in the scripture that he removed his hand, because it wasn't supposed to be like that. But it was the will of Yahweh that this happened. And both these children were blessed of Yahweh. The symbols for Joseph are a sheaf of grain and a grapevine. Thus, following along with Joseph, that Joseph is a fruitful vine in Genesis chapter 49, verse 22. Now, here's an interesting little tidbit for you. The symbols, a sheaf of grain, which would represent bread, and the grapevine, which would be wine. Interestingly, look at that. The bread and the wine, just like it was in the New Testament for Messiah, when he said, I am the bread of life. And he said, at the end, he said, take of this, it is my blood of the New Testament. It's portrayed as wine. We don't know actually what it was, but it is wine, or so they say. So we see here the representation, or the interesting part here, where it's bread and wine. And it follows Joseph, interestingly enough. Joseph in Egypt. Though Joseph was sold into slavery by his jealous brothers, Yahweh raised him up to a place of prominence in Egypt. Joseph stored up the grain for the coming famine. You can read that if you read in the end of Genesis. You can see that whole story there. When his brothers traveled to Egypt to purchase grain during the famine, Joseph was reconciled to them. And what's it say in Genesis chapter 50, verse 20?
But as for you, you thought evil against me. But Elohim meant it unto good, to bring to pass, as it is this day, to save much people alive.
Okay, so we see here that it was Yahweh's intention, or it was in his foreknowledge to have this happen. Joseph did not understand it. His brothers did not understand it. But it was the will of Yahweh, because he saved many people in the famine. Now, let's look at the census for Joseph. We're going to look at the tribe of Manasseh first. The first census was 32,300. The second census was 52,700. You can see here by the numbers that the population greatly increased. In the tribe of Ephraim, the first census was 40,500. And the second census was 32,500. A population decrease. What was Moses' blessing over Joseph? Deuteronomy chapter 33, verses 13 through 16.
And of Joseph he said, Blessed of Yahweh be his land, for the precious things of heaven, for the dew and for the deep that couches beneath, and for the precious fruits brought forth by the sun, and for the precious things put forth by the moon, and for the chief things of the ancient mountains, and for the precious things of the lasting hills, and for the precious things of the earth and fullness thereof, and for the good will of him that dwelt in the bush. Let the blessing be upon the head of Joseph, and upon the head of him that was separated from his brethren.
Wow, look at that. Look how much Moses' blessing was over Joseph. Now, at the camp around the tabernacle, where was the tribe of Joseph? The two tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh were on the left top two tribes. They were on the opposite side of the entrance. That doesn't mean that they were any less important than any other tribe that's in the front of the tabernacle. That's just where Yahweh had them. How about the breastplate of the high priest? Joseph is the only one, his tribe, that had two stones in the breastplate of the high priest. He had Manasseh. The stone was an agate. The color was possibly a yellowish brown color, like what's on the bottom there. And he had Ephraim. The stone was a jacinth, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. The color is possibly like an orangish red color. And you can see them on the breastplate there, the third row down, it's the right two. Okay? And that's where they were on the breastplate. Now, in the Promised Land, the descendants of Joseph's two sons became recognized as two tribes, and they were given territory when they entered the Promised Land. Manasseh had two large portions of land east and west of the Jordan. Okay, right up there and down there. The eastern section, was called the Golan Heights, and part of Syria today, was outside the Promised Land. Those in the eastern section are referred to in the scriptures as a half-tribe of Manasseh. Ephraim had a small portion of land. He was part of the West Bank, what we call the West Bank today. It included Bethel, where Abraham built an altar, Genesis chapter 12, verse 8.
And he removed from hence unto a mountain on the east of Bethel, and pitched his tent, having Bethel on the west, and Hai on the east. And there he built an altar unto Yahweh, and called upon the name of Yahweh.
Okay, and also it was where Yahweh confirmed the Abrahamic covenant with Jacob in Genesis chapter 28. And we can go back. You can go back in later on and read all that. That'd be too long for this teaching tonight. Now, who are some notable people from the tribe of Ephraim? Well, you had the judge Deborah in Judges chapter 4, verse 5.
And she dwelt under the palm tree of Deborah, between Ramah and Bethel in Mount Ephraim. And the children of Israel came up to her for judgment.
Okay, and how about the prophet Samuel in 1 Samuel chapter 1? There's no scriptural reference, but you can go in there and read 1 Samuel chapter 1. Okay, and another notable name from the tribe of Joseph was Joshua. And you can see that in 1 Chronicles chapter 7, verses 20 through 27. For time's sake, we're not going to read that because it is a lot of names. Also, we have Jeroboam. He was the one who led the succession of the northern tribes. You can see that in 1 Kings chapter 12, verse 25.
Then Jeroboam built Shechem in Mount Ephraim and dwelt therein. And he went out from hence and built Peniel.
Okay, so we see Jeroboam was from that tribe of Joseph. The next one is, and the last one is Benjamin. Okay, Isaiah chapter 41, verse 10.
Fear thou not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy Elohim. I will strengthen thee, yea, I will help thee. Yea, I will uphold thee with the right hand of my righteousness.
Okay, so how does that lead into Benjamin? We'll see in just a moment. Benjamin was the 12th and final son of Jacob. He was born to Rachel. The meaning of his name means son of the right hand. Rachel named him Ben-Oni, which means son of my sorrows, as she was dying in childbirth. But Jacob renamed him Benjamin, which means son of the right hand, which indicates a favored son. Genesis chapter 35, verse 18.
And it came to pass, as her soul was in departing, for she died, that she called his name Ben-Oni, but his father called him Benjamin.
Okay, and if you are wondering about that, about the right hand, you'll notice in Scripture that the right hand is always a power hand or a righteous hand, and then you have the left hand. The Scriptures say in one of the Gospels in the New Testament, it says, "Stand here on my right hand, while I make thy enemies thy footstool." Okay? So that's why he was the son of the right hand, indicating a favored son. What was Jacob's blessing over Benjamin? Okay, Genesis chapter 49, verse 27.
Benjamin shall raven as a wolf. In the morning he shall devour the prey, and at night he shall divide the spoil.
Okay, so that's why the symbol for the tribe of Benjamin is a wolf, because it says he is a ravenous wolf. Okay, so that's why that is. Now, Benjamin and his brothers. Now, in Egypt, Joseph tested his brothers by saying that he would keep Benjamin as his slave. When Judah pleaded with Joseph not to deprive his father of Benjamin, Joseph was moved to reveal his true identity and be reconciled with his brothers. And you can see that in Genesis chapters 44 and 45. The tribe of Benjamin, the census, the first census was 35,400, and the second census was 45,600. Quite an increase in population. What was Moses' blessing over the tribe of Benjamin? Deuteronomy chapter 33, verse 12.
And of Benjamin he said, the beloved of Yahweh shall dwell in safety by him, and Yahweh shall cover him all the day long, and he shall dwell between his shoulders.
Wow, that's quite a blessing from Moses about Benjamin. Okay, the camp around the tabernacle. You can probably guess as to where the tribe of Benjamin is at. It's on the bottom left side, right under the other two tribes of Joseph, Ephraim and Manasseh. You had Benjamin. On the breastplate of the high priest, the stone was an amethyst. The color was a purple color, like what you see on the bottom there. And on the breastplate, it was on the left side, third row down, right next to the other two tribes. Now, in the Promised Land, Benjamin had a small portion of land just north of Jerusalem. It was a strategic position in ancient Israel. And on the map, it is right there. Right, seems like it's almost in the middle. Okay, but it was a very strategic position. The tribe. In the era of the judges, the civil war nearly obliterated the tribe of Benjamin. And you can read that in Judges chapter 20. King Saul was from the tribe of Benjamin. 1 Samuel chapter 9, verses 1 and 2.
Now there was a man of Benjamin whose name was Kish, the son of Abel, the son of Zerah, the son of Bechorath, the son of Aphiel, a Benjamite, a mighty man of power. And he had a son whose name was Saul, a choice young man and a goodly. And there was not among the children of Israel a goodlier person than he. From his shoulders and upward, he was higher than any of the people.
Wow. From his shoulders up, he was higher than any other people. Now I wonder if there's a type of something about that in the scripture. I'm going to have to research that. But it says he was a good man. He was a goodly man. Okay, now after Saul's death, the tribe fought against David for control of the kingdom. But they eventually sided with David. And you can see that in 2 Samuel chapter 2. Let's finish up with some notable people that came from the tribe of Benjamin. Of course, we spoke about King Saul, 1 Samuel chapter 9, verses 1 and 2. Also the prophet Jeremiah, Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 1.
The words of Jeremiah, the son of Hilkiah, of the priests that were in Anathoth in the land of Benjamin.
Okay, and also the prophet, the Queen Esther, her cousin Mordecai, in Esther chapter 2, verses 5 and 6.
Now in Shusha in the palace there was a certain Jew whose name was Mordecai, the son of Zerah, the son of Shimei, the son of Kish, a Benjamite.
Okay, so we see Queen Esther's cousin Mordecai came from this tribe of Benjamin. There was one important New Testament prophet or apostle who came from the tribe of Benjamin. And that was the apostle Paul. Philippians chapter 3, verse 5.
Circumcised the 8th day, of the stock of Israel, of the tribe of Benjamin, a Hebrew of the Hebrews, as touching the law, a Pharisee.
Okay, so we see that the apostle Paul also came from this very important tribe. Okay, and that'll be all for the teachings on the 12 tribes of Israel. We do hope you've enjoyed this information. I would encourage you to read the book of Genesis when it starts talking about Joseph and the tribes and the story of Joseph to get a little more background on what we spoke about today. We do hope you have enjoyed this series and come back again for the next series. Yahweh bless.
YHWH's Learning Channel thanks you for watching this video. We hope you were edified by this content. Reach out to us with the information provided on screen, or you may click on the links to view more of our videos. Please subscribe to be notified of new uploads. Until next time, Shalom.